could you detail out both your association with and your understanding of I guess we're going to concentrate on the Reform Party in the UK and differentiate that from, well, the current Conservatives, maybe even the classic Conservatives in the UK. So how are you associated with Reform? What do you think of Nigel Farage and what he's doing? And how would you distinguish Reform from whatever the Conservatives are now, the net zero Conservatives, let's say?
The liberal Conservatives, I think probably many people in Britain would call them, or the Uniparty. They're indistinguishable from the Labour Party. Look, I think many people in Britain know. I mean, I'm friends with Nigel Farage. I've known him for 15 years. I'm very sympathetic to what he's trying to do. I speak at Reform Party rallies and conferences, and I have a close association with the party because I believe fundamentally it's the only political movement that we have that is capable of bringing about the kind of change this country needs to see if it is to be saved. And by that, I mean ending mass uncontrolled, low-skill, low-wage migration from outside of Europe. I mean fixing our borders by leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, by reforming the laws that Tony Blair brought in, including the Human Rights Act, by dramatically reducing the £15.3 billion that we spend in foreign aid every year and making sure that our public services work for British people before we send money to China, India, and elsewhere. I mean pushing back against the net zero project, and I mean investing in non-London areas, in places outside of the capital, and investing in people outside of the elite minority. Now, I have come to the view the Tories, the Conservative Party, are completely incapable of doing those things. They are the architects of the mess that we see around us today. They are the architects of our national decline, and the Labour Party is part of that. I do not view Reform as merely a new Conservative Party. That would be selling it short. I view Reform as a none-of-the-above party, neither left nor right, as a party that could just as easily win over the working class in Northern England and Wales, in the industrial heartlands, as it could win over disillusioned Conservatives in the Tory shires. Look, Jordan, I'll be honest with you. I don't think Nigel Farage has all the answers, and I don't think the Reform movement is the perfect movement. But what I think is that Britain is, for the first time really in generations, is ideally positioned for a full-blown political realignment. And I think Nigel Farage and Reform are the vehicle that can be used to bring that about. In my mind, there are two principles that differentiate this movement from what we might call the Uniparty, in my mind. And I'm not speaking in an official capacity for Reform. The first is the principle of popular sovereignty. I think Reform believes that the true source of power, authority, and legitimacy lies not with a distant elite, but with the people. I believe that ultimately the relationship in politics that matters is vertical. It runs from the people to those they elect to represent them on their behalf. It does not run horizontally from one group of elites in Westminster to another group of elites in Davos to another group of elites in Washington. So I believe foremost in the principle of popular sovereignty. That's what got things like Brexit over the line, and that's what will get many other common sense positions over the line. The second principle that I think unites reformers, and certainly is something I believe in, is the principle of national preference, namely that in every aspect of our country, our home, I believe, from housing to the economy to our culture, identity and history, that the people of that country should ultimately be prioritized, that if limited housing is available, if limited places on the National Health Service are available, if we have money, we should focus on fixing our home before helping other parts of the world. That's not to say we don't want to help other parts of the world. It's just about the ranking and the order of preference. Those are the two principles that I think put the Reform movement clearly apart from the Uniparty, because both the Labour Party and the Tory Party have shown consistently that they don't respect the values and the voice of ordinary people. And they have shown quite clearly that they don't have much of an interest in prioritizing and protecting our home and the things that make our home distinctive, its identity, its culture, and its sense of collective memory or its history. So to me, reform is a common sense position. Almost all of its policies, from migration to the borders to the economy, almost all of them are supported by large majorities of people. And they used to be advocated by mainstream politicians. It's just as I say, the elite class has drifted so far to the cultural left. We had a survey recently in Britain by some social scientists, and they found that Labour and Tory MPs are closer together ideologically than Tory MPs are to the average voter. Right? In other words, the Conservative movement have moved so far to the cultural left that they've basically abandoned ordinary voters. They're indistinguishable, basically, from their Labour colleagues. Now, nobody could say that about Reform MPs. They are bang on, basically, where the average voter is on these big cultural and identity questions. So that's how I see it, and I see it's a correction to a system that has become deeply corrupt and ideologically homogenous.